In the face of the rising popularity of the Conservative Party and its leader Pierre Poilievre, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government are seeking to insulate the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation from being defunded if a Conservative government was to take power after the next election. We all know that Pierre Poilievre's one of his big campaign promises has been to defund the CBC of the $1.3 billion they get from taxpayers every year in his push to actually shrink the size of government and get wasteful spending under control. Now, the Liberals seem to know that they have no chance of winning the next federal election. So instead of trying to argue against Pierre Poilievre's plans, they're now just trying to stymie his plans by just changing the rules so that the CBC might not be able to be defunded by a Conservative government. Now, the details are very vague right now, but Heritage Minister Pascal Saint-Onge seems to be trying to update the mandate of the CBC so that the money cannot just be simply cut off through a parliamentary vote or through some sort of executive action. Again, we don't know what this is going to look like right now. What I predict might end up happening is because the CBC currently relies on just the $1.3 billion being given to them every single year, the Liberals will then maybe give them funding for the next 5 or 6 years so that they can survive a 4-year Conservative government and keep putting out biased left-wing propaganda to end up benefiting the Liberals. Make no mistake, the Liberals are not trying to devise a new scheme to protect the CBC because they just think it's an integral part of Canadian heritage. These are the same people who are completely fine with statues being torn down, streets having their names changed, and universities being rebranded. They could care less about actual heritage. The CBC is only from 1936, and they've been completely comfortable with Queen Victoria statues being ripped down and John A. Macdonald statues being ripped down. What they want is that they want a subtle stream of liberal propaganda. And when I say subtle, I mean in the sense that the CBC doesn't exactly come out and say we're liberal propagandists. That wouldn't be very effective. Just look at the Toronto Star. The Toronto Star does not move public opinion very well because it is so obviously a left-wing outlet. They want the CBC to get up there, pretend that they're objective news reporters, and then have a subtle push towards the left, either through bias through omission, by trying to warp the way that people see a story from from perspective that backs up a liberal talking points, or they sometimes misreport facts, or they end up citing experts in order to basically give the liberal take on the situation with no conservative rebuttal at all. So I think that the Conservatives right now have to push very hard to make sure that Canadians know exactly what the Liberals are doing, because this is a massive this is a massive avenue for government corruption. The government trying to make sure that if a new government gets elected that's not them, that they are not allowed to actually get rid of anything their government did because of just some sort of legislative or legal loopholes, that they give, the CBC 10 years of funding up front, or they somehow tie the CBC's funding to another important piece of funding or the legislation and makes it impossible for them to get rid of it. I wouldn't be okay with the Conservatives making it so that the CBC couldn't be funded if they defunded them. I think that each government can kind of do what it wants as long as it doesn't violate the Charter. What the Liberals are doing is just the sore loser strategy of trying to basically tie legal knots in everything before they leave and try and make sure that the Conservatives cannot actually fulfill their agenda. Part of this is the fact that the Liberals know that it's actually a popular agenda, so they're trying to make it so that Poilievre can't fulfill promises. It would be like trying to put a freeze in place so that taxes couldn't be lowered, and then going after the Conservatives because they didn't lower taxes. Well, it's your fault. And in this case, not being able to defund the CBC if it's just not able to be done would be the fault of the Liberals for causing it to be just made impossible. Hopefully they can use the notwithstanding clause if the Liberals do devise some clever scheme to make sure that they can't defund it and the Conservatives can just ram it through anyways. But at this point, we don't know. I will give you updates on what this plan is. From what I hear right now, it is deeply insidious and very unethical. Other than that, I just want to plug that I have my legal fundraiser linked in the description of this video. It's a Give, Send, Go link. I'm being sued by a billionaire. I'm winning the case, but he's just trying to bleed myself and TNT of money because he has nothing. He has no actual case. He's just going after us for having a guest reporter report something factual about him that he cannot disprove in any way, and we have tons of evidence to prove it. And then other than that as well, I'm also running for the Calgary Signal Hill Conservative Party nomination. So if you live in Calgary, check which riding you live in, because I guarantee if if this video has more than 300 views, at least a few of you do live in the riding. Make sure you have a Conservative Party membership, and anyone else you know in the riding has a Conservative Party membership. Just have a Conservative Party membership in general. It makes it so that you can actually select your nominees in your riding. It always kind of sucks that you just sort of end up going and voting in a general election for whoever the Conservatives put up, and you don't know who they are. And it turns out there are some, sneaky liberal who ended up just winning a nomination and, just slipping their way into the Conservative Party caucus. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll be back sometime in the future with more videos or streams.